happy Sunday, April 16th. I am joining you today from Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada. My name is Nancy, also known as Knit Sip. Make sure I find my coaster. Known as Knit Sip Happy on Instagram and Ravelry. I will link all of my details below and it'll be here on the screen as well. If you'd like to reach out to me or follow me on either of those places, that would be lovely. The last couple episodes I've forgotten to say that. So I have notes. I'm trying to be a little more organized at the beginning before we descend into the chaos that is quite a lot of stuff sitting here beside me. So I will link all of my projects below for you to my Ravelry pages and to anywhere you can find me and yeah, all of that. I've got the camera a little further away because I'm going to do a quick stand-up in a minute. So I already told you Moncton, New Brunswick, East Coast of Canada, right? Right. Spring is slowly arriving. I got home from our trip to New York City on Easter Monday, and we had quite a bit of melt, and even my daffodils are just a couple of inches out of the ground. The snow is pulling back. We've had some glorious sunny days. Today was supposed to be sunny, but it is quite overcast. I have washing on the line, hoping it will dry. So that's that. I am back on the wine today. We'll see how I fare with that. I've got a lovely white. I'm channeling the spring summer vibes. It's a Trebbiano Riesling blend from Italy. It's a crisp, but it's slightly off dry. Lovely. And the last thing in this little intro section is going to lead us into the next section, because for you today, I have finished objects, I have works in progress, I have something that's about to hop onto my needles, I have the winner of the giveaway coming up. I'm going to have a little bit of design chat because I got a new pattern out, and then I'm going to talk to you, just do some general chit chat about things that are coming up. And if you're interested, I've got some footage and I'll do some chat about New York. I had quite a few people ask me if I was going to do that. I decided not to do it as a separate video, but I'll just leave it at the end. So if you're not interested in our whirlwind 4-day trip to New York City, then you can say goodbye to me. I will let you know when that's coming up. Okay. So first things first, what am I wearing? It's my first finished object, and it is Laia by Isabel Kramer. I'm going to stand up and give you a little tour and talk to you about some of my modifications and how I'm feeling about this. So, no, I didn't quite give myself enough room. Hang on, move my chair. And my notes just hit the floor. All right, so I am overall happy with this. I feel like I might have overshot my sleeves and the body might be a smidge long, but I'm okay. I'm happy. It's comfortable to wear. This is actually my first time wearing it off the blocking mats. So it's got this lovely lace detail on the yoke. And then I went a little bit rogue with some modifications. So we'll talk about that. You can kind of see the way I've got the fit. All right, I'm going to put my chair back and I'm going to dip out of shot and grab my notes. Hold, please. And I'm going to come a little closer to you, or I'm actually going to bring the camera back so I can still reach my wine. Priorities. Okay, how are we? I think that's good. Perfect. Okay, so Laia. This is a reknit. If you've been here before, I'm reusing the same yarn, which was a blend of Holst Coast and Holst Titicaca. One is Passion Flower. I can't remember the other one, but it'll be linked below. I have talked about this before. So I had pulled out a previous version. I test knit this sweater for Isabel Kramer in a slightly bigger size than I needed, and I was already at a quite large size and I'm not anymore. So I found it too loose. I'll put a picture up here to show you the original. I had done it cropped and it was bigger. I wasn't happy with that fit anymore, and I really loved the color and I really loved the sweater, and I wanted to have something that I would wear again. So I went down in size. I can't remember which size I did. It'll be in my Ravelry page. This has been on the needles for quite a while. And I mentioned to you last time that I had finished the sleeves and was ready. No, I finished the sleeves and was just going to work down the body and try to get it finished so I could still wear it before it gets too warm. And this week coming up is looking like 9-10 degrees, cloudy, a little bit gloomy. So I think I definitely will be able to wear this week. So modifications that I did. The first thing I did on all my bind off edges, I did the Italian sewn bind off. It gives you this beautiful kind of rolled finished edge. I really enjoy doing it. I don't mind doing Kitchener stitch. It's fundamentally Kitchener stitch in a straight line. It's not difficult to do, and it's the same as Kitchener stitch. Once you get in the rhythm, it just flies by. But that being said, the bottom hem was hours because I had done 6 A-line increases. When I stood up, you would have seen that kind of shape that you know I like. So I had made a smaller size based on my top, shoulder, under bust measurements. And then after I got to about 4 inches below the underarm, I started doing hip increases on either side of the sweater to give me that A-line shape that I like. So I had 24 more stitches on the bottom by the time I got to the bottom, and the ribbing at the end and the cast off felt rather epic. I think I was working on that on Monday night and Tuesday. Monday when I got home from New York, and Tuesday through the day. In between, I was doing some pattern computer work that had to be done. So while that was all happening, I was working on the ribbing and binding off. And I'm happy that Italian sewn bind off does take a little bit longer, but it's totally worth the effort. It's a very stretchy bind off, and I love the look of it. So that was my choice to make. The other modifications that I made, I picked up much more stitches for the sleeve because I have this lovely meaty arm section, upper arm section, and it gets quite small as I go down. So I had picked up quite a few extra stitches in the underarm area here. And that also gives the advantage of closing up those holes that sometimes you get on a top-down sweater. So I had picked up, I think my sleeve picked out for some reason that number sticking in my head, 94 stitches. I can't remember what the size was supposed to be for my size. Oh, there's a fruit fly flying in my face. Sorry. I'm just going to have to ignore it if it flies by because I'm sure I didn't get it. What else did I do? Oh, I took some stitches from when I did a sleeve separation. I talked about this last time. What I had done is I took stitches from the back of the sweater and moved them to the front of the sweater. So fundamentally, I moved the sleeves backwards to give more room for the bust. So I've got no rippling or extra fabric on the back. I've got a nice flat back, which I love, and a little extra room for my boobs. So that's a really easy modification that you can make on yoked sweaters to help them fit better. This one did have short rows in the back, so the back is a little higher. So automatically I've got this nice shaped neckline, which I love. But I said, this is my first time wearing it, and it doesn't feel like it's shifting. Sometimes these yoke sweaters can kind of, slide back and feel like they're strangling you. By having more fabric on the front to accommodate where I have my bigger part, that allows a better fit for me. So I think I did 8 stitches on each side. So a total of 16 stitches were moved from the back of the sweater to the front of the sweater when I did sleeve separation. Those numbers are in my Ravelry page. So just to, if you were looking for specific details, but again, this was for my size. So you kind of have to play around with those numbers as you get familiar with this technique. So, yeah, so overall, I'm thrilled. I got it washed and blocked and out on a beautiful sunny, warm day. while I was at work. I pinned it out before I went to work, and when I got home, my husband very kindly had unpinned it off the mats and brought it in, because I don't get home until 7:30 and gets a little damp. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Garment off the needles, so I'll probably wear it a couple times, then it'll get tucked away. But it's very lightweight. This Coast and Titicaca blend is very light. The Coast is almost a lace weight. These are yarns from Holst. So the Coast itself has some of the spinning oil still left in it. So it definitely blooms when you wash it. And I've had experience with this yarn in the past that it shrinks up as the stitches get fatter. I feel like it gets maybe wide, or it fills in, but it pulls up. So that's why I had done a little bit of extra length on the sleeves and the body. But I think maybe the Titicaca, the alpaca blend, might be holding its shape a little bit better, because I don't feel like I had that shrinkage that I have found I've gotten from Coast when I've held it alone in the past. But we'll see how it wears. Sometimes after you've unpinned it, it needs a few days just to kind of, come to itself and resume what's going to be its natural shape. Because pinning it out, we're kind of forcing it to take the shape we want it to take. So we'll see. Like I said, it feels a little long. This feels a little long, but I mean, they'll pull up. Italians don't bind off nice and stretchy. I can easily pull this up to wear that way as well. So yeah, happy, love it. You'll probably see it through the podcast next winter. Maybe I'll be able to give you a little bit of an update as to how it feels the wear wise and how the shaping and everything has worked for me. We're going to move on to the next finished object without knocking everything over. Actually, we might just do this instead. So I have a pile here of knitted knockers. I had shown you some of these in the more neutral kind of beigey, light blushy pink. So I have been knitting these in the Cascade Ultra Pima Cotton to donate to Knitted Knockers. These are soft prosthesis for women who've had mastectomies. This is the Cascade Ultra Prima that I've got from a local D-stash. I remember I found on Facebook Marketplace. I have 2 skeins of this kind of goldy yellow. But what I've read is that the colors don't really matter, because for the most part you're wearing them inside a bra anyway, so colors don't really matter so much. I kind of put a push on doing some more of these because the Fiddlehead Fiber Festival that is happening next week, April 21st and 22nd, they are going to be collecting knitted knockers to send off a donation. So I thought, why not kind of push through and get some more of these done to be able to send them off. So you leave them open and unfinished at the back with a long thread, so they can open them up at the organization and stuff them and then send them off. These are all C. I started doing them without the nipples, but even then I still find you get a little bit of a bump. But the first ones that I had done, I think I showed you in the summer, they're a little aggressive. It's an I-cord that you knot and then kind of weave in the ends to pull it down. So I just wasn't sure maybe if I wasn't doing that right or if that's the way they're supposed to look, but I decided to go to the no nipple option for a lot of the rest of them. So that is, I still have more of this yarn to do more, but I'm treating this as kind of a finished object at this point because I'm going to take these to donate on the weekend, and I've dropped one, but I'm just going to put them all down here now. And my last finished object is my Musselburgh hat. I showed you this as a whip the last couple of times, and I wasn't sure. I had a Zoom meeting 2 weekends ago, I guess. I had a Zoom meeting for work on a Sunday afternoon, and this was perfect to have in my lap and just knit around and around and around and around. The problem is the meeting went very, very long, and I kept knitting around and around and around, and I went to shove it into my bag at the end of the meeting and realized I had maybe 5 grams of yarn left, which isn't enough to do. This is the decrease section here. From here up is the decrease section. And I think I might have even modified it to shorten it a little bit. So I had to put my needles, I had to rip my needles out, thread my needles through one leg of each of the stitches, pull it back until I thought I had enough yarn to do the bind off and to do the decreases and the bind off. So probably about an hour of the knitting that I did in the last of the 3-hour meeting was superfluous, but at least it kept my hands busy and made me want to not shout at the screen going, shut up, it's a Sunday afternoon. Let's get back to life. All on the inside. Thank you, Musselburgh hat, for getting me through it. All right, so I'm going to show you this all the way through. I did the large size and started at this end. This was a gradient cake that was gifted to me that was in Deborah from Yarn Indulgences. This was just a practice skein that she had done and she wasn't happy with it. And, you know, it's just going to be a nice, it's going to be a man hat. So I'm going to show you how you wear it. So you make this giant sausage thing. I'm sure you've already seen this. I think I might be one of the last people in the world to make a Musselburgh hat. But I really liked using the gradient versus using something self-striping that the stripe sequence would change. So you turn the hat, put one end in the other end. I'm just trying to, there we go. So this is how the hat looks. So this is going to a fella. So I think this will probably be the way that it gets worn. And then it can be cuffed. It can either be a slouchy or it can be a cuffed hat. So this is, I'll probably wait to give this to them now until the fall coming into next winter. Perhaps it'll be Christmas, don't know. I had mentioned last time I wasn't sure if I would knit another one of these and then promptly, confusingly said, oh, it would be a great project to take to New York because I can just knit around and around and around. Spoiler alert, I didn't take one to New York. But I also think I would knit another one. I'm going to try it in a medium, in a smaller size, and see how I feel. I had also seen Laura on Tiny Human Knits. She's been knitting Musselburgh hats, but she's been knitting them shorter and no cuff, which looked really, I liked the look of that better. So I might see, sorry, I have fluff. I might see if she's got notes somewhere as to the length that she does for Musselburghs, or have a look at that episode to see, to just listen to what she said again. Because I think I would like it shorter and not cuffed for me. It would still be a double thickness hat. But I'm thinking for hand spun where I don't have the yardage necessarily to make this huge long sausage to double over and then double the cuff brim. I'd like to try it in hand spun, but without being cuffed. So Musselburgh hat finished. My thoughts on Musselburgh, plans for the future for Musselburgh. There will be more. I'm going to play around with this pattern a little bit more and see if I can get it to where I'm happy that I would wear one and for gifting. Some of my youngsters, my daughter, her fiance, I think even my son would like these. They're plain, but not overly, well, I wouldn't say not overly boring to knit. It's just round and round stockinette, which has a rhythm and a joy all on its own, and there's a place for that, but not necessarily always in my life. So moving on. So that's it for actual finished objects. I'm going to show you a hoe. So we went to New York City it was a 6-day trip total. 2 days were just travel. And the travel down was horrific. And we'll talk about that later. I'll put a picture up that I posted on Instagram of what I was taking. I had no idea what my knitting time was going to be like or what our scheduling was going to be like. We really didn't have any firm plans other than we were going to Wicked on the Friday night and Hamilton on the Saturday night. Spoiler, they were awesome. But I was going to be carrying that little crossbody bag I was talking about, and I'll put a picture in here. I wore it all the time and always had a little project stuffed in. So the fancy plastic bag. So what I did was, actually, I guess I have more than a hoe, technically. Sorry. I didn't know about needles. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I used the Creative Knitter, all booked up. I knit my Let's Stay Home socks. This was my Christmas Eve cast on, and I had leftovers of the main color, but not of the contrast. So I just found this pretty dusty rose pink in my stash to use for, I thought it was going to be toes and heels, but ended up being just toe. So I knit toe up using my Let's Stay Home pattern. These are called the Let's Go to New York City socks, but using my Let's Stay Home pattern. It's a simple, it's a simple 6-row repeat with only 2 rows that you're actually doing something. And that actually worked for me for sitting down or standing in a queue. I could keep track of where I was and do what I needed to do when I needed to do it. So I knit these 2 small tubes while we were in New York. I actually bound off on the plane coming home for the last one. And then one day this week, I just put in an afterthought heel in. I had enough of the main color, which surprised me. This is going to be a pair of shorties for Sam. I thought this would be fun. While we were in New York, I would be knitting socks for her that I knit in New York. So I did an afterthought heel. I did a little short row, a German short row gusset. This hasn't been blocked, so you can kind of see there's a little bit of a bump there. That'll block out. So this little triangle wedge there is just a German short row section. I did 4 plain rounds, and then I did the rounded toe that is in this pattern. So I think that will fit her fabulously, and I just need to mark and put in that other heel and block these. My first thought was I would save them for Christmas, but I have a feeling I'll give them to her before that. She's coming up today for a friend's son's birthday party, but I'm not going to have this done and blocked to give to her. But yeah, so half, kind of a more 3/4 finished object. I just got to put a heel in this. The ends are woven in on this one. It's not blocked. And then so heel, weave in the ends, block them both, and then give them to her whenever. So the other thing in New York, oh, I put this up on my little stand. This is my leftover yarn from my Laya. So I still have quite a bit left. I'm wondering if I would have enough to do a Stockholm slip over for myself. I need to, there's a full skein of the whole, so it's more the Titicaca, the alpaca. I've got a full and then a part. So I need to do some weighing and measuring and seeing if that would be enough to do a Stockholm slip over, or it'd probably be enough to do something like a ranunculus or a looser gauge sweater for my daughter. We'll see. This is not really her color, to be honest. She's a more neutral kind of gal. Okay, back to whips. And this is the bag that I shoved in my suitcase for New York. We just did carry-on luggage, so I was quite conscious of what I was taking. This bag of yarn went with me as well because I thought maybe I might have more time. This is leftovers, a gingerbread house from K-Zip Knits. I knit myself a pair 3 or 4 years ago, and this is supposed to be a pair for my daughter. That still hasn't happened, so we'll get there. But I took this Mrs. Brown's bag because it's nice and squishy. It's one of the earlier bags, so it's not very heavily lined or interfaced. So the other thing I worked on the plane going down to New York. So we flew Moncton to Toronto, Toronto to Newark, Liberty. And then we took the train from Newark into the city to Penn Station, and then a cab to Penn Station, from Penn Station to our hotel. So it literally was a planes, trains, and automobiles kind of day, travel day. I found my knitting planning ended up being quite last minute for this trip. So I was looking for things that were already wound up, caked up, part skeins, leftovers, smaller quantities that wouldn't take up a lot of space in my little crossbody bag when I was out and about knitting. I had talked about a sock blank, but I ended up I had 2 little cakes of that for the Let's Stay Home Creative Knitter, all booked up. Whew. Can you see the smoke coming out of my ears? I had 2 little skeins of that all booked up. So perfect for 2 at a time socks, toe up, and it was small, so I could just take one little ball with me in my little crossbody bag with socks. Okay, back to this. This is Yarn Indulgences. It's an old base. It's her old, I think it's Indulgent DK, in this kind of variegated semitonal mauvey wisteria kind of color. And I had a pattern in my library that I hadn't knit before. It was from Meg Gadsby. I had done some testing for her. Hang on, do I have the stitch stoppers? Oh, I do. I'm famous for stretching these things out to show you, and I don't have stitch stoppers on there, and I pull all my stitches off my needles. So we'll just stick Eeyore on my needles. How cute is he? So this is the Cadence Cowl by Meg Gadsby. I'll put a picture in here, I guess. Seems like I got more room on this side today. Boy, I've changed with the camera and my seating. So it's got a twisted rib kind of section, 4 of them, and it's quadrants, and then you're increasing in the quadrants in between these sections. So it's getting wider. It's going to be like kind of a funnel. Do they call it a funnel shape? It's getting wider as I go down. And I will keep going until I have 10 grams left. Do the ribbing and bind it off, and this will go into the gift pile. I knit this on the airplane most of the way. And I've done a little bit since I got back, but I thought, DK, it was nice, easy knitting. Yeah. Between that first sock that I worked on and this on the planes and the weighting, and I'll tell you all about that later. The other thing, oh dear. Hang on, there we go. The other thing I cast on the way home, yeah, at Newark Airport, I think I cast this on. I took this leftover sock blank from Sweet Skein of Mine. This is a superwash merino nylon stellina in the colorway Hookah Girl. So it's a single sock blank, not a double. And what I did was I just folded it in half and pinned the tag on here. From Sweet Skein of Mine in Fredericton, New Brunswick, my lovely friend Amanda. So I just folded the sock blank in half, pinned it, and then started working from that end. And when I get to the pin, I'm out. I'm out of the Hookah Girl. So I wanted to do something different and kind of fun. So I grabbed this Knit Picks Stroll Fingering. And that's more like it. It's in the Sprinkle Heather colorway. And there's kind of, I think they go well together. This is going to be another pair of shorties for my daughter Sam. And I just cast on a toe up, again, because of yarn management. I just want to make sure I have enough yarn. I'll tell you, I've got something coming up that quite clearly made me do this. Yeah. So I cast on a toe in the Knit Picks, and I'm just helical knitting. I've never done a helical knit sock before. I've done helical knitting on my garments when I'm using indie dyed yarn to make sure we're not getting flashing and pooling. But what I did with this is cast on the toe, put the Sweet Skein of Mine Hookah Girl in there, and then 3 stitches before, switch back to the purple, knit around 3 stitches before the Hookah Girl's due to start, slip those 3 stitches, knit around with the Hookah Girl, 3 stitches before for the purple, slip them, knit them, and you just get this seamless spiral knit with the pops of color from the sock blank. I think it's really fun. So these are on my 2.25. I knit all of my socks, unless I say otherwise, on 2.25. My preferred needles are Chowgu or Hai sharps, sometimes steels. Actually, I think those are steels. So this was the airplane knitting on the way home. Our travel day home was seamless, impeccable, fantastic, which after the shit show that was the flight, the experience going down was a relief. That was a huge stressor for me as we got closer and closer to Monday morning to flying home. So that is the things I worked on in New York, and I've worked on a little bit on them since I got home. The other whip you've seen before is, and I can't remember where I was last time. It's in my I Love a Good Fingering cheeky bag. Sad news. The knitting goddess out of the UK has closed her shop. So I'm sorry, I'm going to keep showing you and teasing you this, but they do not make bags anymore. They don't make anything. Well, no, I lie. They're moving to something else. I don't know. They're moving out of yarn. Whether they're going to keep their bags, I'm not sure. But it's the knitting goddess in the UK, and I will have her linked below to see maybe if it's following on to a new website for them. I poured myself some extra wine because I knew it was going to be a long chatty one, and I've not had any. Okay, so if you've been here before, you know that these are the Freddie Beach engagement socks for my daughter's fiance. This is for Rob. This is Sweet Skein of Mine in her old merino nylon fingering base in the colorway Barn Board. I've had this caked up for years, and I'm just using a Knit Pick Stroll. Yes, I do. Basalt Heather colorway for the toe and heel. So one sock done. I can't remember if this was done last time or not, and I have started the second sock. I'm knitting this on my Cuckoo 9-inch circular, 2.25 millimeter. Sometimes I'll use a 2 millimeter. I find on these Cuckoo 9-inch circs my gauge is a little bit looser, but I'm okay with that. I've modified this to be a 68 stitch sock for Rob. He's not quite a 72, but he's not quite a 64 either. So I thought 68 with a slightly looser gauge maybe. That has worked well for him in the past for his socks. He is so knit worthy. They sent me a picture yesterday and he's wearing his socks, just sitting on the couch chilling. Yeah, he's a good boy. So those are in progress and will get done hopefully before the next time I see you. Freddie Beach engagement socks. So Freddie Beach engagement socks part 2. I cast on, I'm storing this one in my Dodo Leathercraft bag. These are a local maker, just this cute little bag. It's got a pocket in there. Couldn't really see that very well, could you? There's a pocket in there. They also made my leather knitter's bracelet that I need to order some more of for little gifts and treats for people. So this is Freddie Beach engagement sock part 2 for my daughter Sam. So I've had this, I picked up this Bergère de France Gumi 50. If you've been watching podcasts for the last 5 or 6 years, there was a phase in time where this was everywhere. Everybody was knitting with this about 4 or 5 years ago. And I had never seen this brand anywhere. I picked it up on a D-stash. I can't remember if it was a Facebook D-stash locally and it's the colorway Imprim Beige, which was the super popular color. So this is totally Sam's vibe. Very neutral, beigey, salmony, just with those pops of color to keep me enthused. So I did a cast on in a burgundy that I thought went with the pops. Did the rib, did quite a long, I have one 50-gram ball. I should have divided this in 2 25-gram balls and done it toe up. I've done the leg too long. This is where I'm at, and I have 28 grams left in this ball, which means I have 3 grams left. And I'm nowhere near the toe. So this has been in timeout for a week and a half, almost 2 weeks, because I'm angry at myself. I'm pissed off at myself. I should have known better. The leg should probably only be to here. So I can't decide if I want to rip this back or if I'm just going to stripe in the burgundy and say screw it. I think I'm not going to do that. I think I'm just trying to reconcile myself to the fact I am going to have to rip back the foot, all the gusset decreases, the heel, bring it back to here, make it a shorty sock, which is what she likes anyway. She does like a long sock, but she does like a shorty. And with 25 grams of this, I don't know who I thought I was kidding with that leg, but I love this pattern. This is my Freddie Beach pattern, if I've skipped past that. This is based on the Bill Thorpe Walking Bridge in Fredericton, New Brunswick, which is where my daughter and her fiance got engaged. So I wanted to do them an engagement pair of socks using this fun design. And it's so fun to knit. It flies by. And obviously it did fly by because I did about 2.5 inches more than I should have. So this is going to get ripped back to, like I said, probably to here. Not a big deal. It didn't take me long to do. It's just. Who likes to rip back? Nobody. But I see no other way around it. My last, I should be looking at my notes. Whips. Okay, I'm doing good. I am doing good. My last actual whip on the needles is, looking at the screen, looking at myself. Hi. I've had, some people who are going back and watching all of the episodes. So every now and again, I get some really fun comments on episode 1 where I was struggling to look at the camera, which makes me laugh. And I haven't mentioned this, but thank you for your comments. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing your knitting with me. Yeah, it's just a joy to have more knitters in my life to talk to. Okay, so I'm about to show you my last work in progress, and it is in my Mishnock bag, which, oh, this should be my screenshot, shouldn't it? I'm coordinating with my bag with the purple. I'm gonna have to do that later because YouTube will not pick a nice picture. If I do this, it won't do it. It'll give me something. So afterwards, I just take a quick screenshot of me. Did you need to know that? Probably not. All right. Stop rambling. We're already at 37 minutes. It's going to be a long one, folks. You might have to divide me in 2 or pour yourself an extra drink. This is my Sersha, I think it's pronounced. I'll put the spelling on the bottom and a picture. This is a Truly Myrtle pattern by Libby Johnson in New Zealand. I've showed you this before, and I've mentioned this pattern before. I am using yarn. This is my Christmas gift from my friend Deborah from Yarn Indulgences. It is the Z Luxe, blowing out, silky. There we go. And that's pretty close to the color, actually. Ooh, no, that's not. Let's wait for that color to stabilize again. It's this lovely, it's called Nancy's Wine. So it's a little deeper and darker than this, but the light's blowing it out a little bit. So I have picked this up. Last time I was talking to you, I had mentioned that the size 9 that I'm doing did not have the arm circumference that I needed for here. So I was going to have to do an arm circumference for a bigger size. And I was kind of in that holding pattern because I had to figure out how to make that happen. So I felt like I had the brain power on Friday night when I got home from work. Ambitious, right? Looked at the pattern again and tried to figure out, what my ending stitch count was going to be for my body and what my ending stitch count for my sleeves needed to be and how I was going to be able to adapt that. I haven't done it with any real firm plan other than the fact I knew what number I had to get to. So that's what I'm just shooting for that. And I'm almost there. I think I have 2 more increase rounds to do. I've put my stitch stoppers on here appropriately, the wine themed ones. I got these from Ginger Snap, all of my little stitch stoppers that I'll show you today. The Eeyore ones and these ones came from Ginger Snap when I did that silly order when I showed you when Sophie was visiting. So I'm on a short circumference needle, but and I haven't split for the sleeves yet. So it has this beautiful stitch detail that starts at the shoulder and runs all the way down the outer side of the sleeve. And other than that, it's a plain knit, but it has a beautiful scoop neck that I still have to pick up an edging on. A beautiful scoop neck, and like I said, that nice sleeve detail. And it's a raglan style, so I'm increasing at different rates. Right now I'm having to do some double and triple increases to get to where I need to be, and I'm increasing more on the sleeve also to get me to where I need to be. But it's looking good. I'm happy with that. I'm pondering whether I'm going to do less raglan increases on the back and do some extra ones on the front, again, to give me a little more space, maybe hope that it doesn't shift around too much when I'm moving it. I've never done that before on a raglan. I've only ever done it on a yoked sweater, so I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do. Has anybody done that on a raglan? So I was thinking of stopping or slowing down the increases on the front. No, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to slow down the increases. So on a row that says I need to do a triple increase at each raglan, I'm thinking I'm only going to do one and then do a double on the sleeve to get that extra space I need in here. But then that would make the back a little bit smaller and the front a little bit bigger. I just kind of had that thought this morning. Has anybody done that? I'd be interested. Please leave any comments below. Excuse me, there is fiber floating around in here. I can see it. My laundry has beeped and my husband is walking around, so if there's any ambient noise, excuse that, but it's a Sunday in our house. Excuse me. So yeah, this is where I'm at. So unless in any comments in the next day or two, somebody says, don't do that. Warning, Will Robinson, don't do that. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then split for the sleeves. My goal with this is I'd like to get it past sleeve separation because we've got this knit weekend next weekend at the Fiddlehead Fiber Festival. I've got a whole bunch, there are a whole bunch of us going. It's an inaugural event in Florenceville, Bristol, in New Brunswick. It's 3 hours from here. There's a small vendor market. There are some classes, but there's a few of us from different parts of the province that are all meeting up there. So there's going to be some hotel knitting and sipping and chatting. So I'm looking for something simple in the round in a garment. So I will get this to sleeve separation before Thursday night, Friday morning when we leave. My friend Deborah Yarn Indulgences has a booth, so she will be taking her vehicle to be able to fit all of her booth stuff in, which means I get 3 hours of car knitting. I don't have to drive. Lovely. But I would like this separated before I get to that. So that's the goal this week, is to sort this raglan situation out, do the math, get my sleeves separated and off, and start working on the body. This is an A-line, as you will have seen in the picture I posted earlier, which I love, so I don't need to do anything extra. The A-line is included in the pattern. Yay, Libby. Thank you for that. Yeah, and it's a t-shirt, so it will be entered in the Cozy LV Mal. The hashtag is here. Manon from La Violette and Sophie from Cozy Meadow Yarns are doing Cozy Meadow Knits. Geez, Sophie, I always forget that. Are doing a knit along for a summer garment tee tank, something with short sleeves, and this will have short sleeves. So I'll be entering it in that. And I also think the Grocery Girls are running a summer tees and tanks cal as well right now, and that one will also go into their raglan knit along. I haven't participated in a lot of knit alongs lately, and I love a goal, I love a deadline, which is why I test knit. Random aside. Okay, so that is Sosha and my goals. Sleeve separation before I go to the Fiddlehead Fiber Festival on Friday morning. It can be done. The other couple things I have are not on my needles, but they will be going on very soon. If you've been around since the beginning, this Mrs. Brown's bag bag may be familiar. This is going to be a tale of woe and perhaps redemption. It's an abandoned project. I was knitting the Sunshine Coast by Heidi Kiermaier. Put the picture here. It's a DK weight summer A-line 3/4 sleeve warm weather kind of sweater. I already own one in a mint green. I'll put a picture here, but it's a little big. But I did wear it the other day and it was quite nice. Actually, I wore it in New York. It was a good layering piece. Aside, I wanted to knit another one, perhaps in a smaller size. I had purchased this yarn from Small Bird Workshop. It's she used to bring in mill ends. So this is a Ramie hemp bamboo, 70% Ramie, 15%, which I believe is nettle. Ramie is nettle. 15% hemp and 15% bamboo DK weight yarn. But 290 meters for 100 grams. So I've struggled with this a little bit because I was completely off gauge and having to do sweater math, and I failed at it. The first time it was too snug. I'll put a picture here. I got back from Quebec City last year after my first podcast and did a try on, and it was a very, very snug. So, and I was also starting to get some pooling and flashing happening. So I have 4 skeins of this. Some's already wound up. So I ripped it back to sleeve separation because it's an A-line. So the gauge was changing. The number of stitch per round was changing. So I was getting flashing. And I was helical knitting and I was still getting flashing that I wasn't happy about. So I ripped it back, started again, and tried to, change things up. No, I wasn't helical knitting the first time because I didn't think I was going to need to. This struck me as a more commercially dyed kind of vibe with no real pattern to it. And I was getting the pooling and flashing. So I ripped it back to sleeve separation, did it again to, 6 inches past sleeve separation. The try on, the fit was better, but I was still getting flashing. So I was like, am I going to have to helical knit with 3 strands? And I wasn't sure how to do that, but I had comments telling me, yes, you can absolutely do that. I didn't look into it any further. I just went, screw it. It's now September, October. I'm not going to wear this until next year because it's a summer garment. And I put it in the naughty corner, and that's where it's lived. It is still, I could have been showing you this. I hadn't ripped it out. So, I love this garment. And I do want another one. It's got a panel down the side. I'm not sure if you can see that the A-line increases happen, and then we've got eyelets, but you can see as we're getting down in here, I'm getting that flashing again. And it's right in my midsection, which I want those garments to kind of skim and flatter, and it's not. So it's still on the needles. I haven't touched it in months and months and months, and I'm ripping it out. Why I'm ripping it out now is because I applied for a test knit. Annijuuti Knits and Nina, who is in the podcast chat group I belong to on Instagram, showed off this Tankar tee. I'll put a picture here of Anina wearing hers. She had posted pictures in our little chat group of this design that she was finishing off and that she'd be looking for testers. And I'm like, yes, please. I love a summer tee. And the deadline was long enough for my size. I think I'm size 5, that I knew I'd be okay to do that. The Saoirse Truly Myrtle knit needs to be done before Knit City Montreal, which is mid to end May, Victoria Day weekend, because it's going to be a booth sample or a on my body sample while I work in the booth at Knit City Montreal for Deborah. But I know I can get this done. So I swatched. Where's my swatch? I swatched at Annie's recommended needle size, and this yarn is a little thinner. I said at the 290 290 meters per 100 grams. It seems to me kind of sport DK-ish, but the weight of it. So I think I went down to a 4 millimeter. I wrote it in, I have it written in my notes somewhere, but those notes are on my phone. So I put a little purl line here because I've done it flat and in the round. And my gauge was similar on both. Anina mentioned that she is a tight knitter. So I actually got gauge on the needle she recommended. And again, I don't remember, excuse me. I don't remember if that was a 4 or a 4.5 millimeter. The test has already started. It's been going on for a couple of weeks. I knew I wasn't going to be able to start it because of our trip away. So I did do the swatch to make sure I had yarn that would work. Otherwise, I was going to have to order yarn. I already have yarn in several carts, summer yarn. I love knitting with linen and cotton. I know a lot of people don't. I love knitting summer garments. I love knitting with summer yarns. I want to wear my knits all year long. So yeah, I had also pondered, I showed you this last year too. This was another mill end from, oh dear. Ignore this. Small Bird workshop that I'd gotten, and this is 50% linen, 30% cotton, 20% bamboo, and it's 600 meters per 100 grams, so firmly a lace weight. And I was going to hold it double. I've got 3 skeins, so it's 1800 divided by 2, so 900 meters, so 1,000 and something yards. So I can get a summer tee at a loose gauge in that. I had tried swatching it last year, held double, and the experience was not fantastic, I have to say, which is why it kind of got abandoned. It's also very similar to my Sunshine Coast, my first Sunshine Coast that I wear now. So I'd like it to be something completely different. So I had pondered this for the Tankar tee as well, but the yardage wasn't quite there. So the Tankar tee is a top-down t-shirt boat neck. It's a different shape for me, and I really wanted to try it. It looked really flattering on, it looked really good on Anina. I really liked the look of it. I said, I'll put a picture in here again. I put one up earlier, I hope. It's a drop shoulder, so it's a little wider on the top, but then she does, I think there's decreases to the waist. I'll probably do mine a smidge longer than recommended in the pattern for as long as the yarn goes for, perhaps. If I'm doing a drop shoulder garment for summer, I like it a little bit longer because I don't like the flappy. I do a lot of moving at work. I do a lot of stirring of buckets and lifting of things. And I don't care what anybody else thinks, but it bothers me to see my arms flappy. So if I'm doing a drop shoulder, anything for summer, I like to do a bigger size because then I can get the drop shoulder to cover a bit more of my bicep. But her pattern with the decreases included as it comes down to the waist intrigued me. So that's why I really wanted to knit this one. I will be casting this on, I was hoping today. We'll see how editing and uploading goes. I've left my laptop at work, so I'm going to have to drive to work and home, and that's a 40-minute round trip. Because I really like to get this up and posted today on a Sunday, because, you know, you might have time to watch me on a Sunday. You might not have time to watch me on a Monday. But the way I'm blathering, it might be a multi-day event. Okay. Tankar tee coming on my needles soon. You'll see it next time. I'm going to rip this out. I'll have to use... Oh, I'm going to have to get my husband involved because there's 2 strands in there. It's helical knitting, so we'll both have... He loves doing that with me. Not. While we're watching TV one night, I'll have to convince him that's a good thing to do to keep his hands busy. The other thing that's coming onto my needles very soon is another Tits Up sock. I say sock singular. My Tits Up sock is right there. We'll talk about that more in design chat. The pair I knit as a sample size to fit my daughter because she modeled the picture, modeled for me. Was my foot model for the pattern pictures. So I'm going to gift her that full pair. I have enough left over of this yarn from Annie Perrin. This is the colorway Midge. And have you started watching Mrs. Maisel yet? Okay, I'm going to put a picture in right here. The airport scene in episode 2. These are the colors she was wearing. Annie, you're brilliant. So Annie's not dyeing yarn, I don't think, right now. I will still link her Instagram below. It's Annie Perrin Yarns, but she's Annie Bacopoulos. I will link her below. But I have enough yarn here to do another single sock for sure. I could probably do a pair if I had a different contrast, but I don't. So I'm going to gift Samantha this pair because they fit her perfectly. I'm going to knit a single sample sock so that I can keep, I like to have one sock if I ever want to do any marketing, take any extra pictures for sales or promotions coming up or whatever. I want to have a sock with me. So I'm going to do a single Tits Up sock. I was supposed to do it on Friday night while we watched the first episode of season 5 of the new season of Mrs. Maisel, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I wax on about this show. If you haven't watched this, that's on Amazon Prime. It's very sweary, very cheeky, hilarious. I love the acting. It's by the same people who did Gilmore Girls. Highly, highly recommend. The plan was I was going to cast on the single sock. I have no sock needles in 2.25 millimeter that are free between various things I've got. I'm not showing you in my whip pile today. I didn't show you the Mind the Gap socks. I haven't touched them. They look exactly the same. Those are the self-striping London Underground socks. I'll put a picture there. I haven't touched them. They've got a needle on them. I've got 4 pairs of socks or single socks in process at this point. I just don't have another needle, so this didn't get cast on. I went to my Sersha instead. But this is going to happen this week. This would be a good one also for travel knitting. I think this would be great to take to the Fiddlehead Fiber Festival because I could practically do this with my eyes closed. It is a pattern, but it's super easy. You can read your knitting. It's my magic formula for my favorite kind of socks. Not a vanilla fan necessarily, but I do like a little something something, but not too much something something that I can still knit and drink and chat with my friends. This is going to happen. And I have this in my yellow field bag from Fringe Supply. So that is it for my FOs, my whips, and what's hopping on my needles very soon. The other thing that will happen too after Sersha comes off the needles and I get my test knit done, the Salty Air Tea by Samantha Guerin. She had a sale on a couple of weeks ago. I shared it on my Instagram. I hope you managed to grab it. I grabbed my Salty Air Tea and something else, can't remember, on sale, which was lovely. And yeah, Samantha Guerin messaged me back and said, thank you for sharing. And we were chit-chatting and I was like, whoa, yay, little starstruck, little fangirl moment. Yeah, so that, the other thing that keeps jumping into my mind is I have the Comfy Cozy Advent from 2022, and I want to knit the Suvi Simply Stripes sweater. That's starting to percolate in my mind as to how I want to knit that. I think that's going to have to, it's not a summer knit, but I definitely want to knit it before next Advent season comes around. Have you ordered Advents yet? I haven't committed to anything. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a full Advent, but I said this last year, and then I started seeing inspiration pictures. I will do the Area 51 Advent socks, the stripe a day. I love doing that. But the mini skeins, I'm just not sure. Oh, I also worked on, hang on, not quite the end. It's just, I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Speaking of Advents, we had a cold, gloomy day one day, so I decided to pick up my jelly roll blanket. And so this is the first rectangle I did. So I did 1, 2, 3, and a bit. So that was an evening worth of knitting, but it's nice now because I can actually sit under this blanket. It's a good size. So this is my Advent from 2021 from Amanda Sweet Skein of Mine, and I'm just alternating it with Knit Picks Stroll Dove Heather for the gray to look like a quilt. I'm itching to cast on a Cozy Memories blanket. Actually, I also worked on my granny stripe. I'm not going to pull that out. I'll table blanket chat for next time. How about that? I did work on my granny stripe crochet blanket because, again, it was a cold night and I just wanted to have that weight on my lap. The only thing is when you're knitting or working on a blanket is you have to turn it every now and again. Especially with the crochet, you've got to turn the whole thing and then you get cold again because you've lost all your lovely warm air while you're crocheting it with it on your lap. All right. I also had somebody ask me, because I'd mentioned last time about sweater math. I have it here in my notes. I'm going to wait to do that on the next episode, I think, because by the time I go through what I still have to go through, we're already at an hour, and this one's going to be an epically long one already, I think. So I'm sorry to make you wait, but I'm just going to talk about sweater math next time. I'll pop that on there. We've already talked about Fiddlehead Fiber Festival. I'm taking Saoirse. I'll take a pair of socks. If my Tankar tee is at that point, I may also take that. Yeah, it's 3 to 8 on Friday for the marketplace, and there's classes, and I'm doing a talk. That's my Tuesday job. I have to go through notes and coherently put together some points and a handout for the talk that I'm doing at Fiddlehead Fiber Festival about adjusting, modifying your knit garments to your shape, and what I've learned and my tips and tricks. I don't know if I'm more freaked out by the fact that nobody's going to come to it, or if I'm freaked out by the fact that there might be I don't know. I have no idea how many people are going to be attending. Yeah. So that's Tuesday's job. I got to go through, I'm off my day job. So that's Tuesday's job. I'm going to work on notes and all of that stuff for Fiddlehead. So yeah, I will take some footage of friends and knits and what we get up to that weekend and share them with you on the next episode. I've got knit night on Tuesday night. I've got to work till 7, so I can't quite get there for the 6 o'clock start, but I will be there with bells on. So that is in Dieppe, New Brunswick at Caboquet Brewery. I'm not a beer fan, but I will have a glass of wine. Thank you very much. And that's happening on Tuesday. We had a great full turnout last time. We are running out of space up there. They're going to put an extra table in for us this time so we can fit 35 to 40 people instead of our 25 to 30 because we ran out of chairs last time. How cool. So excited. Can't wait to see hopefully lots of my local knitting friends there. And let's do the giveaway. My brain just went, ding, you haven't actually done the giveaway, Nance. Okay. For editing ease, I'm just going to do the random comment after. No, I'm just going to pause. Hold, please. Okay. I gathered myself together and I did do the random comment picker on YouTube. The winner is Lisa Marie. I'll post it up here. So this is the giveaway we ran last time. I asked you to use the word spring in your comments to win this lovely springy double sock blank called Turtle Slime. But we were kind of deciding it looked more like buds shooting out of the ground, daffodils, crocuses, total spring vibe with those shots of gold and yellow. So Lisa Marie, you have won this sock blank from Kim and Colin Gingersnap. Thank you so much for donating this sock blank, Kim and Colin. Really appreciate it. Very generous of you. Because you guys know I love a double sock blank, knitting my socks 2 at a time with this fun sock blank. So Lisa Marie, you are the winner. I didn't look any closer as far as contacting, but please message me on the email below, or you can comment. Yeah, just send me an email below. I worry about Instagram because sometimes it gets lost in hidden and requests and all that foolishness through messages. So send me an email at nancy@knitsiphappy.com. I said it's linked below for you. And let me know your mailing address and I will get this sent to you as soon as I can. As soon as I hear from you. Yay, congratulations. Thank you everyone for telling me all about spring in your part of the world. A lot of the down under Australia, New Zealand were telling me it's not spring, it's autumn. Of course it is. I hope you have a lovely autumn wherever you are in the Southern Hemisphere. In the North, I have to say, I comment. I give a heart and I comment I reply to every single comment. I love having these chats with you, and thank you for accommodating me with that. It was so hard for me not to use the word spring in my comments because I didn't want to be into the random picker. I told you the YouTube picker to just pick comments that use the word spring. Yeah, it was so hard for me. I was finding lots of ways around, this season, or anyway, I was finding it entertaining. Some of the comments were late, and I apologize for that. I like to get back to you quite quickly, but with New York, they were coming in fast and furious, and I just didn't have the time to comment right away. But I have answered everybody's comments. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and being along for the ride and putting up with my shenanigans. So Lisa Marie, I'll wait to hear from you. And the last knitting content before I'm going to go into New York is some design chat. So again, if you're not interested in this portion of the podcast, I will say goodbye to you and I will see you soon. And if you are interested in hearing a little bit about my Tits Up Socks, we're going to chat about that now. So I released the pattern on Friday, April 14th, because that was the day that the new season launched on Amazon Prime. Only the first 3 episodes. But to be fair, my husband doesn't binge watch. I got him hooked on the show. We did a full rewatch in 2022. He loved it, which means I cannot binge watch season 5 because he likes to watch. He likes to spread it out. So this is my trade-off for having him share the experience and the laughter and all that with me is we watch them episode 1 day at a time, which the fact that there is only 3 episodes released now, I'm assuming there'll be one. I don't know if they're going to go 1 a week every Friday after this, so I don't think I would have been able to binge watch them anyway. I digress. So my Tits Up Socks, Mrs. Maisel, if you followed me on Instagram while we were away in New York, these socks went to a lot of places. I'll include some of that at the video at the end of the New York chat, but we went to the Rockefeller Center, which is featuring in this season. We went to Central Park. We went to the Carnegie Hall, which was a major turning point in the plot in season 4. No spoilers. These socks saw Manhattan, let me tell you. We had a lot of fun, my daughter and I, playing around with this. We took pattern pictures with her wearing them with the playbill on the bed in our room. So if you are new here and haven't seen, I design sock patterns. This one was based on the series Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and it is called Tits Up, which is a saying that Susie and Midge use before she goes on stage. She's a fledgling stand-up comedian, and it's tits up. It's shoulders back, tits up, rule the world. It's I take it as an encouraging thing for women, for us to boost each other up. We feel better when we are tits up, shoulders back, tits up, face the world. So I was going with this theme of friendship and a little bit cheeky because these little round motifs, these are the tits. There's 2 sets, one for Midge, one for Susie. I've started a hashtag on Instagram called, I'll put it here, hashtag can you see my tits in this yarn, after a hilarious conversation we had in the tester group. That was Leanne, who posted a picture and says, I don't think you can see the tits in my yarn. I just about had a spit take and spit out my wine that I was drinking at the time. So we've got a hashtag Tits Up Socks and hashtag can you see my tits in this yarn. So if you're knitting this pattern, please use that hashtag. I would love to see them. So it is plain stockinette on the back to show off the beautiful yarn. As I said, this is the Midge colorway sock set from Annie Perrin. And I did some thin kind of pinstripe vibes to mimic some of Midge's beautiful mid-century, you know, late 50s, early 60s fashion. Her wardrobe is stellar. Yeah, so these are the Tits Up socks. I've done a garter edge slip stitch heel flap, traditional gusset with my rounded toe, which fits amazing. So this sock is available on Ravelry and Lovecrafts. It will be linked below. And until April 20th, all of the proceeds, I charge $5 Canadian for my socks. So if you are in other parts of the world, that's not an expensive price. All of those proceeds will be going to the Canadian Breast Cancer Foundation until April 20th. I will do a donation on April 21st. And I will let you know how much that is. If you don't need a sock pattern right now, if you don't have the funds, completely understand it. If you could go to Ravelry and favorite the pattern, that really helps it get seen. If you see any of my posts on Instagram, if you wouldn't mind sharing them or commenting, all of that helps it get seen a little further, and perhaps I can raise some more money this week for the Breast Cancer Foundation. That felt appropriate for a Tits Up sock pattern. If you would like to gift some to some of your knitting friends, if you've got some great girlfriends that you think would like these socks, that would be awesome. Whatever you can do, whatever your budget and time allows, I would appreciate any help to get the word out about these Tits Up socks. And I love the pattern. I've had some messages from people who've already cast on and are showing me progress, and it just such a joy, such an unexpected joy when I started doing this last year. Yeah, so that's Design Chat. The other big news I'm going to tell you is we're going to the UK. We're going to England and Scotland late August, early September. The timing is great for me for work because it's a little bit of a quieter time. My staff will be able to handle it. We're going to be gone for 2 weeks. So I like to make sure it's not a crazy busy time for my staff to handle it while my husband and I are away. But I've also timed it to be able to hit the Southern Wool Show in Newbury. I have a cousin who lives in Newbury. I have family not far away, so it'll be an easy train journey for me to get to. We're not sure if my husband is coming or not. I would like him to I may send him to husband daycare with my cousin's husband, and they can do manly things, because I'm planning on this being a whole day extravaganza. I can't wait to see some English indie dyed yarn that I follow online. Hello, Bird Street Yarns. I'm looking at you. I'm hoping to meet up with some knitting friends. I've been talking to the ladies from the Wool and Wishes podcast. They live in the town actually where I'm going to be staying, but they are also going to that show. Gaina from Tales from Cuckoo Land, I had been talking to her. I think she's planning on being there. I would fangirl all over the place if I got to meet Gaina. I'm hoping to be, my plan is to be there on the Saturday because I'm assuming that's the busier day, and I'd like to do a meetup. I'm hoping to see familiar faces or friends that I know from Instagram. So if you're in the Southern UK and normally go to the Southern Wool Show, or think you might be going to the Southern Wool Show, please comment below and let me know. And like I said, we're months away. I'm just starting. Now that I'm done New York and that planning is over, I'm ready to plan the next trip. We're in our mid-50s. Life is too short. We keep putting off all of these travels thinking, oh, we've got time. If the last few years have shown us anything, we don't necessarily have the time. So we're just grasping on. This was a trip we were supposed to take in 2019. My husband had a health emergency. We couldn't go because our travel insurance was void. So 2023 is the year we're going to do our England, Scotland trip. Edinburgh, I'm hoping to perhaps get to the knit night that happens with Amy Palco and Rebecca from the Creabea. I'm not sure if I've got husband daycare for Edinburgh on them. I think it's a Monday night. Anyway, it's all in the process and in the works. If you are or would be attending the Southern Wool Show or think you would be, send me a message. If you're in the Edinburgh area, we're also going to be spending a few nights in York. Give me all of your tips, all of your yarn store love. Hopefully I can meet some people and see some knitting friends from the other side of the pond. There, that's that spiel. So this is editing Nancy of the future, who's realized that this video is entirely too long with the New York footage on it. So I've decided to separate it out in a separate vlog. So I'm just going to wrap up the podcast proper with our usual ending, except my wine glass is no longer here. It is in the dishwasher and empty. I'm going to say happy knitting, happy sipping, and I will see you very soon. Cheers, my friends.